Welcome to this explainer where we're going to completely validate exactly why staring at a blank, massively overpriced linen-bound gratitude journal when your life is, objectively fine, can actually make you feel like an absolute monster. I mean, you know the exact scenario I'm talking about, right? You've got your artisanal coffee, you're sitting in a ridiculously comfortable chair, you have literally zero immediate threats to your survival, and yet, as you hold your pen over that fancy paper, you feel a surge of pure, unadulterated resentment. Well, today we're diving into the deeply humbling neuroscience that explains why you physically cannot make yourself feel genuinely grateful on command. Okay, let's just look at this incredibly generic phrase, I am grateful for my health. It's the classic go-to, isn't it? I'm grateful for my health, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful I have a roof over my head. We've all tried to force ourselves to write these things down, and we're desperately attempting to feel #blessed. The internet tells us that if we just fake it till we make it, we'll suddenly unlock this Zen-like state of continuous joy. But if you're anything like me, you write down, I am grateful for my health, and your brain just sort of politely yawns, looks out the window, and asks, what's for lunch? We're actively trying really, really hard to feel thankful, and we are getting absolutely nothing in return. So why does writing this make you feel absolutely nothing? We're going to explore a phenomenon known in psychology as gratitude induction failure. And honestly, the research here is brilliant and such a huge relief. It shows that our brains have very strict limits on voluntary emotion regulation. You can't just flip a switch in your prefrontal cortex and magically achieve prefrontal-limbic decoupling. Telling yourself to just appreciate what you have on command is neurologically about as effective as looking down at a bruised, swollen knee and telling it to just stop hurting. You simply can't mandate a feeling. Therapist Scott Camp Schaefer's research completely validates our struggles here, specifically with these 5 things that interfere with gratitude: the shoulds, self-pity, anger, abuse, and blame. But what's really fascinating is how the shoulds totally ruin the vibe. The absolute moment you think to yourself, I really should be grateful for this, you've put your brain in a psychological vice grip. Gratitude and the word should are mortal enemies. They literally cannot coexist in the human brain. If you're trying to force thankfulness out of some sense of obligation, you're basically putting your brain in a chokehold. And consider this stat. 44% of adults experience heightened stress during traditionally grateful periods. This perfectly illustrates the concept of gratitude fatigue. Think about the holidays, right? It's a time when we are culturally mandated to be overflowing with joy while, buying incredibly expensive decorative pumpkins and wrapping paper. The pressure to perform thankfulness is downright exhausting. When gratitude stops being a genuine feeling and morphs into a social obligation or worse, a self-improvement chore, it becomes this incredibly peculiar psychological burden. You just end up feeling guilty about not feeling grateful enough, which is a spectacularly unhelpful cycle to be stuck in. Because here is the ultimate neurological showdown. Authentic gratitude, the prefrontal cortex, dopamine, the parasympathetic system, that is a literal spa day for your brain. It releases those feel-good chemicals and engages your rest and digest nervous system. But forced, performative gratitude, that sets off your brain's internal BS detector, the amygdala, spiking cortisol and triggering a threat response. When there's a huge mismatch between what you're forcing yourself to write and the overwhelmed or anxious way you actually feel, your amygdala perceives that fake smile as a literal threat. You are practically traumatizing yourself with toxic positivity. Let's look at this ego depletion study by Mark Mervin, comparing performance contingent rewards to non-contingent rewards on self-control tasks. It shows exactly why forcing things is a terrible strategy. In this study, researchers made people watch a hilarious movie clip and forced them not to laugh. Some were given a performance contingent reward, meaning they felt highly controlled and pressured to succeed. Others were given non-contingent rewards, meaning they had total autonomy. The people who felt forced and controlled burned out their cognitive battery so fast they performed significantly worse on later tasks. Basically, forcing self-control without autonomy completely exhausts your brain. Because forced self-control drains your brain so severely, neuroscience literally dictates that acknowledging a bad mood is more effective than faking a good one. If you physically cannot make yourself feel grateful, it is vastly healthier to just admit you're a grumpy cynic today. Seriously. If your life is objectively fine, but you're just having a bad day, forcing yourself to write a gratitude list is incredibly cognitively expensive, and it's bound to fail. Your nervous system doesn't care at all about societal expectations. It cares about authenticity and coherence. So just let yourself be miserable for a minute. Science actually offers us a much better tool called affect labeling. This is an implicit emotion regulation strategy of putting negative feelings into words, which downregulates amygdala activity and engages the ventrolateral prefrontal cortex. In plain English, it's just admitting, I am incredibly frustrated by this traffic. By simply naming it, your heroic ventrolateral prefrontal cortex steps in like a soothing parent telling your panicked amygdala to calm down. It gives you the exact relief you were hoping to get from that forced gratitude journal simply by being honest. Honesty just works better than forced positivity. Now, assuming you do actually want to experience genuine gratitude someday, we need to talk about why statements like, I'm grateful for my family, completely fail to register in your brain. Let's move to the specificity secret. I'm grateful for my family sounds super nice on a greeting card, sure, but to your brain's neural network, it's about as stimulating as reading a terms of service agreement. It is way too vague. Your neural networks need something concrete to actually chew on. It all comes down to how memory works. Semantic memory involves generic facts and results in weak neural activation, whereas episodic memory involves personal experiences, sensory details, and robust multi-region activation. Generic thanks rely entirely on semantic memory, plain boring facts. But episodic memory, that is your brain's personal time machine. Episodic memory is your ability to recall an experience with all the rich, HD quality sensory detail of an exact moment in time. And that is what actually rewires your dopamine pathways. Look at the difference here. I'm grateful that my knee didn't hurt during yesterday's walk, so I could feel the crunch of leaves under my feet. When you add those vivid, highly specific sensory details, the crunch of leaves, or maybe the exact smell of the steam rising off the soup your partner brought you when you were sick, you force your brain to actually replay the experience. You are simultaneously activating the visual cortex, sensory processing centers, and emotional memory systems all at once. This robust multi-region activation is the secret sauce that actually rewires your brain structure over time. Which brings us to this incredible quote. Authentic gratitude breathes. Performative gratitude suffocates. This perfectly captures why we have to stop treating thankfulness as a mandated chore. It needs space, not a checklist. Authentic gratitude requires total honesty and absolutely no external validation. Performative gratitude, the kind we force just to fit in or tick a box on some self-care app, literally suffocates us. It depletes our cognitive resources and stresses our nervous system. We have to allow genuine appreciation to emerge organically through true autonomy and deep specificity. So, will you stop forcing the shoulds and start giving your brain the autonomy it needs to truly appreciate life? Next time you find yourself staring at that expensive blank journal, just ask yourself, are you trying to appease your amygdala or are you actually ready to rewire your brain? Ditch the toxic positivity, let yourself have a bad day when you need to, and see what happens when you finally let your gratitude breathe. Try documenting only the real, highly specific moments of gratitude when they actually happen. Because as we've seen, your brain absolutely knows the difference, and it will reward you for finally telling the truth.